The ship Unity's Hope moved slowly through space toward the planet Kepler 44b. Inside the ship, 4 humans sat quietly in their seats. They were going to an important meeting with aliens from many different worlds. Kang Daeho checked his weapon for the 10th time that day. He was a security guard for this mission. His job was to keep the other humans safe. Daeho was 32 years old and had been a soldier for many years. He had short black hair and strong hands that never shook, even when he was nervous. "Stop checking that gun," said Park So-min with a small smile. She was the doctor for their group. So-min was 29 years old, with kind eyes and quick fingers that could fix almost any injury. "This is supposed to be a peaceful meeting." Daeho looked at her and smiled back. "I know, but it's better to be ready for trouble." Lee Taejin sat across from them, reading papers on his tablet. He was the leader of their group, and the one who would do all the talking with the aliens. Taejin was 35 years old and very smart. He knew how to make deals and solve problems, with words instead of fighting. "The aliens we're meeting are very different from us," Taejin said without looking up from his tablet. "They don't understand why humans fight so much. They think we're too violent to join their group." Yuen Mira was working on the ship's computer systems. She was 27 years old and could fix any machine. Her fingers moved fast over the keyboard as she checked all the ship's parts. "Well, maybe if they met Daeho, they'd change their minds," she said with a laugh. "He's the nicest violent person I know." The humans were going to meet with the Tri-Species Council. This was a group of 3 different alien races who controlled a big part of the galaxy. If the meeting went well, humans could join the Galactic Cooperative. This was like a big club of over 200 different alien worlds. Being part of this club would help humans trade, learn, and explore space safely. But not everyone wanted humans to join. The Hegemony was a group of aliens who hated humans. They thought humans were too dangerous and wild. The Hegemony wanted to keep humans trapped on Earth forever. They had tried to stop this meeting many times before. On the ship with the humans were 3 aliens who supported letting humans join the club. Ambassador Veltar looked like a giant bug with 4 arms and big black eyes. He could speak perfect human language and was very polite. Commander Thexri looked like a big lizard that walked on 2 legs. He was a soldier like Daeho but from a different world. Dr. Quindel looked like a frog but was much taller than any human. He was a scientist who studied different types of life. "How much longer until we reach the planet?" asked Ambassador Veltar. His voice sounded like he was talking through water. "About 2 hours, said Mira, still typing on her computer. "All systems look good. We should have an easy landing." Commander Thexri made a sound that might have been laughter. "In my experience, when someone says easy, that's when trouble starts." Dr. Quindel was looking at a tablet that showed information about human bodies. "I still don't understand how humans can be so active with such weak bodies," he said. "Your bones break so easily. Your skin tears with just a small cut. How did you survive long enough to build spaceships?" Soman answered. "We're tougher than we look. Humans are very good at not giving up. But surely," Dr. Quindel continued, "if a human breaks a major bone, like a leg bone, they become completely helpless. My people would simply wait to die if such a thing happened." Daeho looked up from his weapon. "A broken leg. That's not the end of the world. I've seen soldiers keep fighting with much worse injuries." The 3 aliens looked at each other. Ambassador Veltar's big eyes got even bigger. "Keep fighting with a broken leg. That's impossible." "Not impossible," said Daeho, "just very painful." Commander Thetsri shook his big lizard head. "Pain is the body's way of telling the mind to stop. No warrior can ignore such a message." "Human warriors can," said Taejon simply. Before anyone could say more, the ship shook hard. Everyone was thrown to one side. Red lights started flashing, and a loud alarm began to ring. "What's happening?" shouted Ambassador Veltar. Mira's fingers flew over her keyboard. "We're being attacked. 3 ships just came out of nowhere." Daeho was already moving. He helped Soman back into her seat and made sure her safety belt was tight. "Hegemony?" he asked. "Has to be," said Taejon. "They don't want this meeting to happen." The ship shook again, harder this time. Through the window, they could see bright flashes of light. Enemy weapons were hitting their ship. "Our shields are failing," Mira shouted over the noise. "I'm trying to make an emergency landing on the planet." Commander Thexri tried to help, but he didn't know how human ships worked. Dr. Quindel was making scared noises in his own language. Ambassador Veltar was holding onto his seat with all 4 arms. "Everyone hold on," Mira yelled. "This is going to be rough." The ship began to fall toward the planet. It spun and twisted as Mira tried to control it. The engines were making terrible sounds. Smoke filled the air inside the ship. Daeho looked at Soman. Her face was scared but determined. He reached over and took her hand. "We'll be okay," he said. The ship hit the ground hard. It bounced once, twice, then slid across the rocky surface of the planet. Metal screamed against stone. Parts of the ship broke off and flew away. Finally, after what felt like forever, the ship stopped moving. Everything was quiet except for the sound of small fires, burning and metal cooling down. Daeho tried to move and felt terrible pain shoot up his left leg. He looked down and saw that his leg was bent in a way that legs should not bend. The bone was broken, and he could see part of it sticking out through his skin. Blood was making his pants red. Somin, he called softly. I think I need a doctor. Somin was already moving toward him, her medical bag in her hands. When she saw his leg, her face went pale. Oh no, that's a bad break, Deho. A very bad break. The three aliens were slowly getting up from their seats. When they saw Deho's leg, they made sounds of horror. He's going to die, whispered Dr. Quindel. Such an injury is always fatal. We must leave him, said Commander Thexry sadly. A warrior with such wounds cannot continue. It would be cruel to make him try. But Deho was already trying to sit up. The pain was so bad it made him feel sick, but he didn't stop moving. Help me up, he said to Somin. Deho, you can't move with that leg, Somin said. I can move, Deho said through his teeth. I have to move. Those hegemony ships will send soldiers to find us. We need to get out of here. He used his arms to pull himself to a sitting position. Sweat covered his face from the pain, but he didn't make any sounds of complaint. The aliens watched in shock as the human with the terrible injury began to think about how to survive instead of how to die. This is impossible, whispered Ambassador Veltar. No being can function with such damage. But Deho was already looking around the crashed ship, planning their next move. The aliens were about to learn something new about humans. They were about to learn what it really meant to come from a Somin worked quickly on Deho's leg. She cleaned the blood and pushed the broken bone back under the skin. Deho bit down on a piece of cloth to keep from screaming. His face was white with pain, but he stayed very still while she worked. I'd need to make a splint, Somin said. This will help keep the bone in place, but you really shouldn't walk on it. How shouldn't? Asked Deho. You could damage it more. You could lose the leg completely. You could die from infection. Deho nodded. Okay, but I still need to walk. The aliens watched this conversation with confusion. Dr. Quindel spoke up. You humans don't understand. When a major bone breaks, the body shuts down. You cannot simply decide to keep using it. Watch me, said Day-Ho. So Dash-Min used pieces of metal from the crashed ship to make a splint. She wrapped it tight with cloth from their emergency supplies. Then she gave Deho 2 small pills. This is all the pain medicine we have, she said. It should help for a few hours. Deho looked at the pills, then put them in his pocket. Save them for later. I might need them more when things get worse. Things get worse. Ambassador Veltar's big eyes looked even more scared. How can things get worse than this? Mira was checking her computer tablet. I'm picking up movement about 10 kilometers away. Looks like 3 vehicles heading toward us. They're not our friends. Taejon looked through the broken window of their ship. We need to reach the diplomatic compound. It's about 50 kilometers north of here. Once we get there, we'll be safe. Commander Thexry made a hissing sound. 50 kilometers through this rocky land. It will take days. And with a wounded human, the wounded human will keep up, said Deho. He was using a piece of metal as a walking stick to pull himself to his feet. When he put weight on his broken leg, everyone could hear a grinding sound as the broken bone moved. Deho's face went even whiter, but he didn't fall down. This is madness, whispered Dr. Quindel. He should be unconscious from pain. Humans don't work like you people, said Somin. She was packing her medical supplies. We're built different. They left the crashed ship and began walking across the rocky ground. The planet had 2 suns, and both were hot. The air was thin and hard to breathe. The aliens had trouble with the gravity, which was stronger than on their homeworlds. But none of them had as much trouble as everyone expected Deho to have. Every step he took made a soft grinding sound. His broken leg couldn't bend properly, so he had to swing it forward with each step. Sweat poured down his face. Sometimes he had to stop and lean on his metal walking stick until the worst of the pain passed. But he kept walking. After 2 hours, they stopped to rest. The aliens were breathing hard and tired. Deho sat down carefully, keeping his broken leg straight. How? Asked Commander Thexry. How are you still moving? I've seen warriors on my world give up from much smaller injuries. Deho drank some water from his bottle. Pain is just information, he said. It tells me something is wrong, but it doesn't control what I do. But the grinding sound, said Dr. Quindel. Every time you step, I can hear the bone pieces moving against each other. That should cause unbearable agony. It hurts, Deho admitted. It hurts a lot. But bearable and unbearable are just words. I need to get you all to safety, so I bear it. Ambassador Veltar was looking at his own forearms. If one of my arms was broken like your leg, I would become completely helpless. My body would shut down until it healed. That's smart, said Somin. It protects you from more damage. But humans evolve differently. We come from a world where stopping meant dying. What do you mean? Asked Dr. Quindel. Taejon answered while he checked their direction with a compass. Earth is what we call a death world. Everything there tries to kill you. The weather, the animals, the diseases, even the ground sometimes. Our ancestors had to keep moving even when they were hurt, added Miraf. If they stopped, predators would find them or they would starve or die from cold. So humans who could ignore pain and keep going were the ones who survived long enough to have children. Commander Thexry thought about this. So pain tolerance is built into your species, more than tolerance. said Deho, standing up again. We use pain, it makes us angry, it makes us focused. Right now my leg hurts so much I want to kill every hegemony soldier on this planet. They started walking again. As the day went on, Deho's condition got worse. His legs swelled up inside the splint. The skin around the break turned purple and black. Someone could see that infection was starting, but Deho kept walking. When night came, they found shelter in a small cave. Mira tried to contact the diplomatic compound with their emergency radio, but the signal was too weak. Deho sat at the entrance to the cave, watching for enemies. His rifle was ready across his knees. His broken leg was stretched out in front of him, and everyone could see how much it had swollen. You should be unconscious, Dr. Quindel said quietly. The infection, the pain, the trauma. Any of my people would have died hours ago. Maybe, said Deho, but I'm not dead. And as long as I'm not dead, I'm going to keep doing my job. What is your job? Asked Ambassador Velt. Keep you safe, get you to that compound, make sure this peace meeting happens. Commander Vexry came to sit beside him. On my world, we believe in honorable death. If a warrior is too injured to fight, he should die with dignity rather than suffer. Deho looked at him. That's not the human way. What is the human way? Survive, no matter what. Protect others, no matter what. Never give up, even when giving up makes sense. Somin came over with her medical scanner. Deho, your leg is getting infected, your temperature is rising. I need to give you antibiotics, but I only have a few doses left. Give them to someone else if they get sick, said Deho. You are sick, I'm functional. There's a difference. The next morning they started walking again. Deho had developed a fever during the night, but he still got up before everyone else and checked their surroundings for danger. His walk was getting worse. The broken leg was so swollen now that the splint was too tight. Somin had to cut it and make a new one. When she did, everyone could see that the leg was turning strange colors. This is very bad, she whispered to Taejun. If we don't get him to a real hospital soon, he could lose the leg, or die. But when they started walking, Deho was in front, again using his metal stick to test the ground ahead of them. By afternoon, Mira picked up movement on her scanner again. They found us, she said. Vehicles coming from the south, maybe an hour behind us. Can we outrun them? Asked Tae-Jun. Mira looked at Deho, who was leaning heavily on his walking stick. Not all of us. Then we don't run, said Deho. We find a good place to fight. Ambassador Veltar made a scared sound. But you can barely walk. Deho turned to look at him. His eyes were bright with fever, but they were also completely focused. I can still shoot, and think, and fight. That's all I need. The aliens looked at each other. They were beginning to understand that they had never really known what the word human meant, and they were about to learn a lot more. They found a good place to hide among some large rocks. Deho positioned everyone carefully, thinking about where enemies might come from. His fever was getting worse, and sometimes he had to stop talking to wait for the pain to pass. Dr. Quindel watched everything Deho did. As a scientist, he was fascinated by what he was seeing. During their rest periods, he asked Somin many questions about human bodies. How is he still thinking clearly? Dr. Quindel asked. The pain signals from his leg should be overwhelming his brain. Somin was checking Deho's temperature with her medical scanner. Humans have something called endorphins. When we're in pain, our bodies make natural drugs that help us function. But surely there are limits, said Dr. Quindel. There are, but they're much higher than what other species can handle. Somin looked worried as she read her scanner. His temperature is 39 degrees. That's dangerous for humans. Ambassador Veltar was watching Deho set up a tripod for his rifle. Even with a fever and a broken leg, the human's hands were steady. Tell me about your homeworld, he said to Taejun. What made humans like this? Taejun sat down beside the alien diplomat. Earth is not a kind planet. For millions of years, our ancestors had to survive things that would kill most other species. What kind of things? Mira answered while she worked on the radio. Ice ages that lasted thousands of years. Volcanoes that blocked out the sun. Earthquakes, floods, hurricanes, and that's just the weather. Don't forget the animals, added Sumin. Giant cats with teeth like knives. Bears that could tear a person in half. Snakes with poison that could kill in minutes. Dr. Quindel made notes on his tablet. So humans evolved to survive in constant danger. More than that, said Taejun. We evolved to fight back. Most species find a safe place and stay there. Humans find dangerous places and figure out how to make them safe. Commander Vexry was helping Deho arrange rocks for cover. On my world, warriors train for years to ignore pain, but even our best fighters couldn't do what he's doing. It's not just about ignoring pain, said Somin. Human brains are wired differently. When we're hurt, part of our mind can separate from the pain and keep working. She pointed to Deho, who was now testing his rifle's sight even though his hands were shaking from fever. See how he's moving. His body is telling him to lie down and rest, but his mind is overriding those signals. That seems very dangerous, said Ambassador Veltar. It is, admitted Somin. Humans die from pushing too hard all the time. But more, humans live because they can push past what should stop them. Dr. Quindel looked up from his notes. You said humans evolved this way. What happened to the humans who couldn't do this? They died, said Tajin simply. For millions of years, only the toughest humans survived long enough to have children, so every generation got a little tougher. But it's not just physical toughness, added Mira. Humans also evolved to protect each other. That's why Deho won't give up. He's not just trying to save himself. Commander Dexry looked at Deho with new respect. On my world, we have stories about ancient warriors who could fight through any injury. I thought they were just legends. Maybe they were real, said Soman. Maybe your ancestors were tougher than you think. No, said Commander Dexry. My people evolved on a safe world. Plenty of food, no major predators, stable weather. We never needed to become like humans. As the day went on, Deho's condition got worse. The infection in his leg was spreading. His fever climbed higher. Sometimes he would stop in the middle of talking and stare at nothing for several seconds, but he never stopped planning their defense. Soman, he called. How much medical supplies do we have left? Not much. Some bandages, a few antiseptic wipes, 1 dose of antibiotics. Save the antibiotics for someone else. Deho, you need them more than anyone. He looked at her with eyes that were too bright from fever. I'm already infected. The antibiotics might not help me, but they could save someone else who gets hurt. Dr. Quindel whispered to Ambassador Veltar. He's making medical decisions, while his brain is damaged by fever. How is this possible? Humans compartmentalize, explained Tage. We can put pain and sickness in one part of our mind while using another part to think clearly. That's not how minds work, protested Dr. Quindel. It's how human minds work, said Mira. That evening, Mira's scanner picked up the enemy vehicles. Again, they were closer now, maybe 2 hours away. Deho called everyone together. His fever was so high that sweat poured down his face, but his voice was steady. They'll probably attack tomorrow morning, he said. Early when they think we'll be tired. We need to be ready. He showed them positions behind the rocks. Teja, and you'll coordinate ammunition. Make sure everyone knows how much they have left. Mira, keep trying the radio. Maybe we'll get lucky and reach the compound. What about us? Asked Commander Vexry. You know tactics. Help me watch for flanking moves. Ambassador Veltayu and Dr. Quindel stay in the center where it's safest. Ambassador Veltar for arms moved nervously. What if they capture us? The hegemony won't care about diplomatic immunity. They won't capture us, said Deho. How can you be sure? Deho checked his rifle one more time because I won't let them. Dr. Quindel was still taking notes. I need to understand something. You're willing to die to protect us, but we're not even the same species. Why? Deho was quiet for a moment. Then he said, because it's the right thing to do. You came with us to help make peace. That makes you my responsibility. But the cost to yourself doesn't matter. This is bigger than just me. Somin came over and sat beside Deho. She put her hand on his forehead and frowned. Your fever is getting dangerously high. I know you could have brain damage. You could die. I know that too. Then why won't you take the medicine? Deho looked around at all the aliens. Because if I take it and something happens to one of them, I'll never forgive myself. I can live with pain and fever. I can't live with failing people who trusted me. Commander Vexry shook his head in amazement. On my world, we have a concept called warrior's honor. But I'm beginning to think we never really understood what honor means. What do you mean? Asked Taejon. We think honor means dying bravely in battle. But this human shows a different kind of honor. He doesn't want to die bravely. He wants to live and suffer so others don't have to. Dr. Quindle looked up from his tablet. I've been calculating the stress his body is under. The pain from the broken bone, the infection, the fever, the dehydration. Any one of these things should make normal function impossible. But he's not normal, said Soman. None of us are. We're human. That night Deho couldn't sleep because of the pain and fever. He sat watch while the others rested. Ambassador Veltar found him staring out at the dark landscape. Can I ask you something? The alien diplomat said quietly. Sure. Do all humans suffer like this? This ability to endure pain, is it normal for your species? Deho thought about it. Most humans could do what I'm doing if they had to. Maybe not as well, maybe not for as long, but they could do it. That's terrifying. Why? Because it means there are billions of beings like you on your home world. Billions of creatures who can function through impossible pain and never give up. Deho smiled, even though it hurt his fevered face to do it. That's not the scary part. What's the scary part? The scary part is that we use this ability to protect people we care about, even people we just met, even people from other species. Ambassador Veltar was quiet for a long time. Then he said, I think I'm beginning to understand why the hegemony is so afraid of humans. Good, said Deho. Fear will make them stupid, and when they're stupid, we can beat them. In the distance, they could see lights moving across the landscape. The enemy was getting closer. The real test was about to begin. The attack came just before sunrise, exactly when Deho had predicted. Mira's scanner showed 12 enemy soldiers moving toward their position from 3 different directions. Deho was positioned behind the largest rock. His broken leg was stretched out at a strange angle, and the infection had turned his skin red and swollen all the way up to his knee. His fever was so high that he sometimes shivered even in the warm morning air. But his rifle was steady, and his eyes were sharp. "Remember the plan," he said quietly into his radio. "Let them get close. Don't waste ammunition. Tajin counter shots. Mira keep trying to reach the compound." The hegemony soldiers were good. They moved quietly and used the rocks for cover. But Deho had been a soldier for many years. He could see their pattern. "Commander Thexri," he whispered, "3 coming up the left side. They'll try to flank us in about 2 minutes. "I see them," the alien warrior replied. "How did you know?" "It's what I would do." The first shots came from the enemy. Energy bolts hit the rocks around them, sending up sparks and smoke. Ambassador Veltar made a frightened noise and pressed himself flat against the ground. "Stay calm," said Deho. "There. Just testing our positions." He aimed carefully and fired once. An enemy soldier fell. The aliens were amazed at how steady his hands were, even with the fever and pain. "How many rounds do we have?" asked Tajon. "Not enough," said Mira. "Maybe 50 shots total." "Then we make every shot count," said Day-Ho. The enemy attack got stronger. More soldiers appeared from behind rocks and hills. They had better weapons and more ammunition than the small group of defenders. But they didn't have Deho's tactical mind. "Somin, take Dr. Quindel and move to the back cave. Commander Thexri, shift left about 3 meters. There's a blind spot in their coverage." Even with his brain fevered and his body broken, Deho could see the battle like a chess game. He moved his people like pieces, always staying 1 step ahead of the enemy. "Ambassador Veltar," he called, "I need you to do something brave." The alien diplomat looked terrified. "What?" "See that small rock pile about 10 meters to your right? I need you to get there and make noise. Draw their attention. They'll shoot me. Not if you move when I tell you to." "Trust me." Deho waited, watching the enemy movements. His leg was throbbing with every heartbeat, and sweat from his fever made it hard to see, but he kept calculating angles and timing. Now he shouted. Ambassador Veltar ran for the rocks. Enemy soldiers turned to shoot at him. In that moment, Deho and Commander Thexri fired at the distracted enemies. 2 more soldiers fell. "Excellent work," said Commander Thexri, "but we're still outnumbered." "Numbers don't always win battles," said Deho. "Smart tactics do." The fight continued for 2 hours. The enemy kept trying to surround them, but Deho always seemed to know where they would attack next. He repositioned his people constantly, making the small group seem larger than it was, but ammunition was running low, and Deho's condition was getting worse. "Somin," he called, "I need you to do something." She crawled over to him. When she got close, she could see that his eyes were too bright and his skin was burning hot. "Your fever is over 40 degrees, she whispered. "That's dangerous. You could have seizures. I need you to take that antibiotic and save it for whoever gets shot." "Deho, you need it now." "I'm not shot. I'm just sick." "There's a difference." Before Somin could argue, more enemy fire came their way. A bolt of energy hit the rock right beside Tajon, and sharp stone cut his face. "I'm okay," he called, but blood was running down his cheek. Deho's rifle clicked empty. He reached for his sidearm, a smaller gun with fewer shots. "How much ammunition do we have left?" "Maybe 10 shots, said Tajon. "And they still have at least 8 soldiers, added Commander Thexri. Myra suddenly looked up from her radio. "I got through. The compound is sending help." "How long?" asked Deho. 2 hours. Deho looked at their position. The enemy was getting bolder, moving closer. 2 hours was a long time. "We need to slow them down," he said. "How?" asked Commander Thexri. Deho pointed to a narrow gap between 2 large rocks. "If we can get them to come through there, we can hold them with fewer people. But someone would have to get them angry enough to charge," said Tajon. "That's very dangerous." "I'll do it," said Deho. "You can barely walk." "I don't need to walk. I just need to make them mad." Before anyone could stop him, Deho crawled to the edge of their position. His broken leg dragged behind him, leaving a trail of blood. He raised his sidearm and began shooting at the enemy soldiers. "Hey," he shouted in the hegemony language. "You're terrible soldiers. I'm half dead and I'm still beating you." The enemy soldiers became angry. They started moving toward his position, trying to kill the human who was insulting them. But when it had to come through the narrow gap between the rocks, Commander Thexri and the others were waiting. The plan worked, for enemy soldiers tried to charge through the gap at once. They were easy targets in the narrow space. The aliens shot 3 of them, and Deho got the 4th with his last bullet, but now his sidearm was empty too. 4 soldiers left, said Mira, checking her scanner. "No ammunition," said Tajon. Deho reached into his pack and pulled out 2 small grenades. Not completely helpless yet. Dr. Quindel stared at the explosives. "Where did you get those?" "Emergency supplies. I was saving them for when things got really bad." "Aren't things really bad now?" asked Ambassador Veltar. "Now they're really bad. Before, they were just bad." The remaining enemy soldiers had learned to be more careful. They stayed behind cover and moved slowly. They knew the defenders were almost out of ammunition. "They're going to wait us out," said Commander Thexri. "They'll just keep us pinned here until we collapse." Deho's fever was so high now that he was starting to have trouble focusing his eyes. Sometimes he would start to say something and then forget what he was talking about, but he kept thinking about the battle. "There's another way," he said finally. "Would I create a distraction? Draw them to one side. You all escape to the other side. We're not leaving you," said Somin firmly. "It's the smart move, it's not the human move," said Taejon. "Humans don't abandon each other." Commander Vexri made his hissing laugh sound. "I'm beginning to understand your species better. You're all insane, maybe," said Daeho, "but we're insane together." He looked at his grenades. "Okay, new plan. We wait until they get impatient and try to rush us. When they do, I'll use these to collapse part of the rock wall. That should even the odds." "And if the rocks fall on us too?" asked Dr. Quindle. "Then we'll die trying instead of die waiting." "I prefer trying." They waited. The enemy soldiers got tired of being patient, just as Daeho had predicted. They decided to end the fight quickly with a direct attack. All 4 remaining soldiers came out of cover at once, running toward the defender's position. Daeho pulled the pins from both grenades. "Everyone get down." He threw the grenades at the base of a large rock wall. The explosions were enormous. Rocks crashed down, blocking the enemy advance and creating a cloud of dust and smoke. When the dust cleared, 2 enemy soldiers were trapped under rocks. The other 2 were stunned but still alive. "Now," shouted Dae-Ho. Commander Vexri and Taejon charged the remaining enemies. Without ammunition, they had to fight hand to hand. The alien warrior was strong, and the human diplomat was quick. Together, they overpowered the last 2 hegemony soldiers. The battle was over. Daeho collapsed behind his rock. The explosions had used up the last of his strength. His fever was so high that he was starting to see things that weren't there. "Rescue is coming," Mira said, still working her radio. "They'll be here in 30 minutes. "Good," whispered Daeho. "Mission accomplished." Somin crawled over to him. "Stay awake. Don't close your eyes. Just need to rest for a minute." "No, look at me. Stay awake." Dr. Quindle was checking his medical scanner. "His life signs are very weak. The fever, the infection, the blood loss. I don't understand how he's still conscious because he's human," said Somin. "And humans don't give up." In the distance, they could hear the sound of rescue vehicles approaching. Daeho had kept his promise. He had protected them all, even with a broken leg. The rescue ships arrived 30 minutes later, their engines roaring as they landed near the rocky battlefield. Medical teams rushed out carrying advanced equipment that could save lives in minutes. But when they found Daeho, he was still awake. "Report," he said weakly to the rescue team leader. The alien medic, a tall, thin creature with 6 arms, stared at him in shock. "You're the injured human. The one who's been fighting for 3 days. "That's me." The medic ran a scanner over Daeho's body. "This is impossible. Your leg bone is completely shattered. You have a severe infection. Your body temperature is 41 degrees. You should be dead." "But I'm not dead," said Daeho with a small smile. "So let's fix me up." As the medical team worked on Daeho, Dr. Quindle showed his recordings to the other rescue workers. He had documented everything: the broken leg, the fever, the 3-day march, the tactical brilliance during the battle. "I've never seen anything like it," Dr. Quindle told the rescue team. "He never stopped thinking clearly, never stopped protecting us, never stopped fighting, even when his body should have shut down completely." The recordings spread quickly through the galactic communication networks. Within hours, beings across hundreds of worlds were watching the footage of a human fighting with impossible injuries. Commander Vexri sent a message to his military leaders. "We must study human tactics. They have capabilities we never imagined." Ambassador Veltar contacted the Galactic Cooperative Council. "The humans are not just tough, they use their toughness to protect others. This changes everything about our alliance negotiations." On the medical ship flying toward the diplomatic compound, Somin stayed beside Daeho while the alien doctors worked on his leg. Advanced medical machines were fighting the infection and repairing the broken bone. "Will he be okay?" she asked the lead doctor. "We think so, but we don't understand how he survived this long. On my world, such injuries would have killed anyone within hours. Humans are different," said So-Min. "Yes," said the doctor. "We're beginning to understand that." 3 days later, Daeho woke up in a hospital bed at the diplomatic compound. His leg was covered in a strange blue gel that promoted healing. Tubes and wires connected him to machines that monitored his health. So-Min was asleep in a chair beside his bed. When he moved, she woke up immediately. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Like I got hit by a spaceship," said Daeho. "Which I guess I did. The doctors say you'll make a full recovery. The infection is gone, and the bone is healing well." "Good. How long was I out?" 3 days. You've been unconscious since we got here." Daeho tried to sit up and winced. "What happened with the negotiations?" Somin smiled. "See for yourself." She turned on the room's communication screen. The news was full of stories about the Deathworld human who had fought for 3 days. With a broken leg, political leaders from across the galaxy were giving speeches about human determination and courage. "The Galactic Council voted yesterday," Somin explained. "Humans are now full members of the Galactic Cooperative. Not just members, we got special status as protectors and peacekeepers. Because of what happened. Because of what you did." Dr. Quindle's recordings showed the galaxy what humans are really like. Not just tough, but willing to use that toughness to help others. Taejin came into the hospital room carrying a tablet full of messages. "You're famous," he told Daeho. "Military leaders from 50 different worlds want to study your tactics. 3 different species want to hire human security teams. And on the hegemony," asked Daeho. "They're backing down. Turns out they're not so eager to fight humans after seeing what one human can do with a broken leg." Mira visited later that day. She brought recordings of news broadcasts from Earth. "Your family is proud," she said. "The whole planet is proud." "I just did my job," said Daeho. "That's what makes it so impressive. To you, fighting for 3 days with a broken leg was just doing your job. To everyone else it was impossible." Dr. Quindell came to visit with a thick folder of papers. "I've been analyzing everything that happened," he said. "I'm writing a research paper about human pain tolerance and tactical thinking under extreme stress." "Find anything interesting?" asked Daeho. "Many things. But the most important discovery is that human strength isn't just physical, it's mental and emotional too. You didn't keep fighting because your body could handle the pain. You kept fighting because your mind wouldn't let you give up on people who needed help." Ambassador Velta arrived with news from the diplomatic meetings. "The peace talks are going very well," he reported. "But now